All right, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to welcome everybody to the Hound's Tales podcast. On this episode, we are joined by a good friend of mine, Mr. Peyton Lucy. This one is long overdue, and I am super excited to get down to get and sit down and talk with Peyton about the Masters Week, and we talk on judging at pools, talk on judging in general. And we get to talk about his dad a little bit too, and talk about some of how Peyton remembers him and kind of continues to carry on that legacy. So, y'all be sure this is also going to be a 2-part series. So this will be part 1 of the 2-part series. So y'all sit back, enjoy, and like always, drop the gate, cast your hounds. Welcome, everybody, to the Hound's Tales podcast. This is your home for field trialing and deer dog hunting. It'll be stories and discussions on the world of dog hunting. So let's drop the gate, cast your hounds, and get ready for another episode of the Hound's Tales podcast.
Joy Dog Food is one of the oldest dog food companies on the market, starting back in 1945. Since then, much has changed in the pet food industry. But one thing that'll never change is our dedication to our customers and providing the best quality dog food while remaining consistent at the same time. Joy Dog Food is family owned and operated by Wade Kraskiewicz and his son Skylar. The two have worked side by side for years, providing superior customer service, products, and resources to pet owners across the nation. Here at Joy Dog Food, we pride ourselves on providing personalized one-on-one customer service to each person that calls, emails, or messages us. For more information on our products, to find a dealer near you, or to become a dealer yourself, visit joydogfood.com or call 800-245-4125.
If you're listening to this podcast, you probably have a need for dog supply items such as Garmin products, bark collars, remote trainers, name tags, field trial and hunting dog supplies, supplements and first aid, dog fences, used and refurbished collars, and much, much more. Where can you go to get that? Outdoor Dog Supply. Outdoor Dog Supply is a leader when it comes to Garmin Tritronics trade-in program. They were one of the first Garmin dealers to start accepting Garmin buyback trade-ins toward purchases. Outdoor Dog Supply currently accepts both working and some non-working units. Be sure to check in with these guys at Outdoor Dog Supply or at 757-482-1000. And their hours of operation are from Monday to Friday, 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. And if you're in the Chesapeake area in Virginia, be sure to stop in. Go see these guys in person. Outdoor Dog Supply is the leader in online sales as far as Garmin products go and your hunting dog supply needs. This is where I go to get all my stuff. Might as well join me in it. All right, guys. Again, be sure to check these guys out, outdoordogsupply.com, and thank them for coming on board with the Hound's Tales podcast. Let's get back to the episode. Welcome, everybody, to the Hound's Tales podcast. Tonight, I am joined by a good friend of mine, Mr. Peyton Lucy. How you doing tonight, buddy?
I'm doing good, buddy. How are you?
I'm here, man. I'm here. I'm excited, man. We've been talking about doing this one for a while, so I'm excited we finally got it lined up and got ready to do this thing.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, we knew we had some good talking points coming up. You know, we kind of put it off for a few weeks, so we finally felt like it was the right time to do this, and I'm glad we could make it happen. So, you know, for those listening, I think a lot of the guys local, and especially they go to pools all the time, and anybody that really fox hunts up here, you know, you're kind of making your name known. So, but for the ones that don't know, you know, just kind of give us an introduction. You know, kind of, I've already said who you are, so you know where you're from, how long you've been doing this thing, man.
I live in a small town called McKinney, Virginia, and it's located in Dinwiddie County, about 30 minutes or so from pools. But I grew up in an even smaller spot named Emporia, Virginia, and which is only about 10 minutes away from where pools is located. I have 2 children, a 2-year-old, and I have a 9-month-old wild child. And, I like to go fox hunting, and I like to run the outside, and I've been doing it for a long time. My dad, he basically has had dogs my entire life, when I was a small child, he had, some just unregistered Walker Hounds, and he had some black and tans, believe it or not.
No kidding.
Yeah, I know. I get on you about them tree stock dogs, but he did have. I would say probably about 97 or 96. I think he got his first foxhounds and started going up to Billy's. And it was just kind of getting rolling then. It had opened a few years before that, but he started going then. And I would go with him some when I was a child, but I lived in Nags Head with my mother until I was about 14 years old. So I would go to hunts, during the summertime. I would go stay with him all summer and feed the dogs and stuff. But my brothers, they did it 365, every day of their life, basically.
Right. I got you. How many brothers do you got?
Well, I have one half brother, and then I have two step brothers. One of us not with us anymore, but we all used to go and go with my dad. He loaded us all up. This is back in the day when you had. They had extended cabs, but they didn't have 4 doors or 3 doors.
Right.
It'd be 6 guns and 10 dogs and 4 children and him, baby.
And lucky to have one seatbelt hooked up.
Yeah. We weren't huge on the seatbelts at the time, but
that's right.
We didn't go too terribly far away.
So
and then. Go ahead.
So your dad was kind of the one that got you, obviously if you're raised from birth like most of us then so your dad is kind of you kind of rolled into it from birth then, I guess. Is that right?
Yes, sir. I would say I was about 14 when I moved to Virginia, and I moved in with him, and a few months later, I got my first actual dog. That was my dog.
Right.
It was actually me and my stepbrother Josh. He's a couple years younger than me. We got 2 puppies from Brian Jordan out there near Charlottesville. And I think we paid $50 a piece. And no telling what they really cost, but that's what we paid my dad. So
that's right.
We had to do some stuff, and we got those 2 dogs. And those were our first 2 hounds.
Love it. I love it. What was it? You remember what that dog was off of? See, I know you got this crazy memory, so you probably do.
It was off a dog named Jordan's Rock. And, man, I'm trying to think of the mother, but I can't remember the guy. But the guy's name was Bud, the older guy who had the mother. And he was from out that way, too. And he was a real old fella. And he used to go to all the 3 days at pools. And it slipped me his last name, but Bud was his name. He was a tall, slender guy. And he always drove a burgundy F-250.
I gotcha.
And out that way. We're big on the Where the Red Ferns Grows.
Yep.
The movie was out. And we'd watch it all the time,
Right.
So first 2 dogs, we had Big Dan and Little Ann, basically.
That's
yep.
That's it. I love it. I feel like anybody that grew up with a hound or in any kind of, I don't care if it was squirrel dogs, I don't care if it was fox dogs, coon dogs, it didn't matter. That was one of your movies that you watched growing up as a kid, was Where the Red Fern Grows.
There's no telling how many times I watched that.
I love it. So when did y'all, I know you kind of mentioned that your dad was, y'all and your dad were kind of more into I'm assuming that into the deer dog stuff and then ventured into the field trialing. Is that correct?
Yeah, I think he got his first registered dog in about 96.
Okay.
Billy Poole, he had actually went somewhere, I think Mississippi, if I'm not mistaken, and bought a whole bunch of puppies and brought them back. And he had them running around up in the chute. My dad went up there and he said, which puppy you want? He said, no, I don't think I'm going to get a puppy. He was like, well, you're going to leave here with a puppy today.
No.
And he ended up with the dog. His name was Wade's Rip, and he won a pile of 1-days. And this is in the day where there weren't a lot of hunts,
Right.
There was no hunt every weekend. He, I think he won 10 or 11 speed and drives. And this is when there might be 10, 11 speed and drives in 1 year,
Right. Yeah, definitely a lot different times now.
Yeah, it's definitely different now. It's probably more accessible now, because anybody can pretty much get a number and go to pools or something like that,
Mm-hmm. And you got to do a lot of hunting with Mr. Billy Poole, didn't you?
Man, my first so I have one memory when I was small, maybe about 6 years old, and trying to keep up with my dad one day hunting, and you know how that goes.
Mm-hmm.
But my first real memory deer hunting, I think I was about 12 years old, and I had come down for Christmas break,
Right.
we got out of school down there. But, when my dad goes hunting, I mean, it'd be, especially on Christmas break, I mean, we're talking 4 children here, you know what I mean?
Right.
4 children, and, I mean, it's a lot, 4 children. And my younger brother, I mean, he was killing deer. He was 5 years old, you know what I mean? So, I mean, dogs running them, I mean, and not playing around. So he was about that. That was probably the same year, really. So really had 4 children and 4 guns, you can just imagine. So he would pawn my youngest brother off with a guy who judges all the time named Skeeter Holloway, and he hunted there with him, and he was my dad's best friend. And he'd pawn him off, so he'd take him, and then my dad might take 1 or 2, kind of spread us out. But my first real memory is, and I didn't even really know Billy like that, you see somebody 2 times a year, you don't really know as a child, but
right.
My dad says, go ride with him. I said, okay. I don't even know what we're doing. Hadn't even dog hunt really. Like, I probably only carried a gun 2 or 3 times,
Right.
And he points to this long bed truck, and it's over there, where the red kennels are.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
and
that's right.
It has like a small loading, shelf right there. Anyway, he backs up to it, 100 mile an hour. He backs up to it. Gets out. So I'm just following. I'm trying to help. I don't know what we're doing, He goes down the runway, starts opening kennels. So the whole kennel, it's got about 20 or 25 spotted up white, some are white. I mean, just a whole bunch of white dogs, which I know you like that.
Oh, yeah. I do.
Yeah. So about 25 dogs, load them in the truck. We drive across the river because, we kind of would hunt all around there. We were in the club where Pools is, and that's where my dad would hunt. So we drove down the road, and anyway, he pulls up, they're coordinating the hunt. He just goes and turns out. He don't care. He turns out, they jump. I mean, they literally jump. I mean, the deer must have been laying right there,
Right.
This is 20 dogs, full cry. And that was really my first experience of really, getting them here, get them fired up,
Right.
They jump. And, I mean, old man Poole, man, he was a deer hunter. I mean, especially when he was younger, they called him the Great White Hunter. I mean, he was after.
That's right. I've always heard people say that ever since I got around, hanging out down there and talking with people. I've always heard people call him that.
Man, I'm just riding with him. I'm having a blast. I'm trying to not act like I am because I don't really know what's going on. But man, But I remember I was about 12 years old. It was Christmas Eve, and it was about 25 spotted up dogs. No collars, nothing like that.
Love it. I love it. And, and it's funny, like, looking back on it, you probably had no idea that you were riding with a legend. Like, I mean, just no clue who exactly you were riding with.
Had no idea.
That's awesome. I love it. I love it. And that was one of the things I always loved about Billy. I remember the first time that I met him, I mean, he come in that old beat up old truck. I mean, it sounded like it was going to fall apart the minute it pulled up, and you could hear it coming from a mile away just because of all the clanking and parts seemed like it was about to fall off. And you would have never known that he was the owner of the pen. Just come up just as nice, talk to you like a human being. He had no ego about him. It was all, he was just a great guy, and he was so fun to be around the little bit of time that I got to be around him. So I can only imagine, growing up and being able to be around him and experience those kind of things.
Yeah, he was something else. He was a funny guy. He was, man, looking back, he probably was, I'm not sure how old he was then, probably upper 60s or 70s, but I mean, he was one of the strongest men I ever met. I mean, he was old then,
Right.
But he like physically just a brute,
No kidding.
Yeah, he really was. I mean, he really was.
I love it. And, one thing, I'll touch on this real quick before we kind of get more into the show that we know our talking points, but getting into the sport now, like getting in late, like I did, I didn't start until I think 2020, 2021, somewhere in there. Pools to me seems like it's been around for freaking ever. To me, that pen should be, in my head, is like a 50-year-old pen, 60-year-old pen. It's so hard to believe that it's not nowhere near that age.
Yeah, I think it's around 30-some years old.
I gotcha.
Yeah, right around. Well, actually, yeah, probably about 30 years old.
Well, if it was in the 90s, then that's right at 30. Hard to believe the 90s were 30 years ago.
Yeah, I don't even like to talk like that.
Right. So, Let's kind of roll into this thing, man. The first one, one of our first talking points, and one of the reasons, I wanted to bring this up and talk about this, it's not for any kind of selfish reasons, but more or less, it's got to give you props. You've been very instrumental in this. Not only, you're going to be the master for my championship hunt. When I talked to you about getting this thing going, and, I was like, man, that's going to be the hardest part, is finding somebody that's willing to master it that I can trust. And you instantly offered. That was something that you didn't have to do. You got dogs right now that are killing it, especially in the 1-day field. And you very easily could have, said, hey, no, I want to run it. But no, you instantly offered to judge this thing. And I think you're judging almost every hunt. I bounced a lot of ideas off of you and gave me a lot of encouragement on getting this thing started. So I definitely wanted to kind of, and talking about the Virginia Penn Series, if y'all didn't catch on to that, I just wanted to thank you before we get started into it, and want to kind of get your ideas. Let's talk about that championship hunt, and you mastering it. You kind of looking forward to that, and what's your thoughts on all that? All right, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to take a second real quick and interrupt the show and talk about Cajun Lights. They have jumped on board to support the Hounds Tales podcast and the field trialing community. You got nighttime field trials coming up. I know I do in my series, Pleasure Running at Night. When you need to catch that next crossing, put your trust in Cajun Lights. Cajun Lights is made in America product out of North Carolina, who has been in business for over 25 years. They make cap style and bucket hat headlamps to free up that extra hand for your voice recorder or for your GPS. There are 3 main lights I want to focus on real quick. The first is the Micro Gator, which is the lightweight option. It has 4 brightness levels and 4 color options, including red for us field trialers. Rated at 50 to 60 hours of battery life on the highest setting, this is your flood style lamp that'll do really good for us out in the fields in the short brush and be able to help us get in front of those crossings. Next up is the Cajun Bayou, which is the next step up, and it includes the same number of colors and brightness levels, but it packs a much bigger punch on that brightness level, so you can catch those crossings way down the path when you got a long road to cover. And last but not least is the top level Cajun Blinder. It has a main beam light with 4 levels of brightness and includes a walking light, and even with a light this bright, the burn life on it is rated at 5 to 6 hours on the highest setting. There's no chance of missing a dog with a light like this one, folks. All their lights come with a 2-year warranty and a lifetime labor warranty, and these guys are excited to get into our sport, ladies and gentlemen. So y'all be sure, if you see me at a hunt, come ask me about them. I'll have one of each of these lights on hand to show you and let you put it on your head and kind of experience it. Show these guys some love, guys. And y'all, please go visit their website at CajunLights.com, and their phone number is 888-773-3080. Thank you, Cajun Lights, for all you do and for trying to get into this sport. Like I said, guys, let's show them some love. Let's get back to the show, guys. Here we go.
Oh, yeah. I mean, the pen is rocking. I was just in there Monday night, and it was absolute roar. 6 or 7 chases at a time. And really, we didn't even have that many dogs that, in there. They were still getting pictures on the feeders while we were running. Foxes eating and just hanging out, and place is running good. I mean, it's opened up. It's not as thick as it used to be, and it's really made to fly. Yeah. And the pen, it has one little corner in it, but honestly, that's some of the best scoring is right there in that corner.
Right.
So it's built to score. You don't have to have an astronomical amount of judges. You want 15 or 18, and it's cover wrapped up.
Yep.
I like the master 5-minute rules involved. It just kind of normally picks a overall better hound, but I'm excited about it. Of course, I'm excited about all of them. I mean, I like going to different pens, and I've been to all these pens that are on the list, and and they all run different, and they all have their pros and cons, but they're all run. That's the main thing,
Right. And
especially at night. I mean, some people, I'll go to North Carolina sometimes, and this isn't, anything against anybody. But they're like, well, you've been up there piddling at pools. I'm like, if you could see some of these 80 dog fox races, you would change your mind.
That's right. Yeah. If you're leading a dog, you're the lead dog in a group of 80 is a whole lot better than being the lead dog in a group of 4.
Yeah, which I mean, don't get me wrong. I like doing everything, and
Right.
that's one thing I don't really ever complain about is different types of hunts. I think it's got their own. Each hunt's got its own little thing.
Mm-hmm.
This rules or that rules. If you want to go to national hunt, you go here. If you want to go to master hunt, you go there. If you want to, whatever you want to do, it's good to keep it mixed up.
That's right. So what hunt do you think you're most excited for out of this series?
Man, I mean, I don't know. I mean, honestly, I know this sounds cliche, but pools with 65 judges
Mm-hmm.
it's just different. I mean, don't get me wrong. Wickham's is. I love judging there. I mean, they'll run me to death in there. It's nothing. It's nothing to just get crossing after crossing.
Right.
Hard run. And Tower Hill's cut now, but I heard it's running good. And Chalk Gym is running good. That place is pretty wide open, but it's kind of hilly.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
I would say, I mean, just pools with 65 judges it's just a whole different hunt.
If not
there's
more.
nowhere to hide.
If not more.
Yeah. There's just nowhere to hide with 65. I mean,
right.
I made a map recently for the Masters, and I had marked 40 stands, and really I could have marked another 15 or 20.
Yeah.
And it's a large pen.
That's my hope with that one. And now that I agree with you. I think that amount of judges is, and like I said, I'd have to go back and actually double check my number on that. I just keep writing the names down and that people that have offered, and then the great thing about it is a lot of the guys that have got numbers to these hunts, that have already, the books that have already opened and stuff. The good thing about it, they said, hey, if we place, a couple of our dogs, we're not going to even try to get numbers anymore. We're going to just help you judge the rest of them. So a lot of these hunts, these later hunts like Wickham's and pools, especially pools, I'm not turning anybody away. I'm not turning a single soul away from pools. If we have 70 judges in there, let's make it happen. I want a judge in every corner, every spot, and I want no chance of a crossing being missed. That's my goal for that hunt.
I agree. I mean, I think it's going to be pretty good. 5-minute intervals again. I mean, not intervals, but blocks. But I mean, I think it's going to be a pretty good hunt.
And Demo's got that pen rocking too.
Man, it runs so. I mean, it runs extremely well at nighttime.
Yeah.
And I mean, it runs. Even at the Masters, I mean, it was running basically the whole entire hunt.
I love it. So before we talk into the Masters, let's want to get your idea. I like doing this. I like talking with people about it. We'll stick with pools since we've been talking about that, and that's the hunt you're kind of most excited for. What do you think it's going to take to win? I mean, if we have, my goal is to invite at least 70, 75, maybe even close to 80 judges and expect 60 of them to show up. So if we got 60 judges in that pen, what do you think it's going to take to win down there that night?
I judged not the night on the Norway last year, which was a 2-class hunt, so you got to take that into consideration. But and I think it was 350 or something to win, and but they weren't throwing any crossings away. But also, we're going to have double the judges, so take that into consideration. I mean, I'm gonna say it's probably about, and I'm pretty good at guessing these scores.
Yeah.
I'm gonna say probably about 505.
505. I like it.
That's a random number, but I'm pretty spot on with these things.
I like it. I mean, 505 is a hell of a night at a 800 acre pen, whatever how many acres that thing is. That's a hell of a night down there to get that kind of scoring.
Well, especially the time of year, because what month is it? August?
Yes, August. It'll be the first full weekend of August.
Yeah, August is the best month to run a fox by far. The Dismal Swamp is in August, if I'm correct, and I mean, you judge it, and they're right.
Yeah, I'm still trying to figure out how I can quit judging it and get numbers. I want to run it so bad, man. I've judged it for the past 3 or 4 years now, and I guess 3 years, and man, I want to run that sucker.
Yeah, I remember the first time you ever judged it.
Yep.
Yeah, I was there. Yep.
Yep, I've been locked in ever since. I've never ran that hunt. I've always judged that hunt, and it's so much fun. Just because, like you said, that is, I'm, not knocking any hunt, not knocking. It's just the time of the year that hunt runs the entire freaking time, and it is balls to the wall. So, kind of rolling into that, we'll kind of roll in. We talked. You mentioned the Masters a couple times. Let's talk to Masters. You were a judge down there, and that's a huge honor to be invited to go judge one of the biggest hunts of the year. Carries the Masters name. Heck, the banquet is that week. I still hate that I missed it and couldn't get off work. Let's kind of talk about that weekend. How did it go for you? What was some of your big takeaways from that weekend?
It was very organized, which I'm real into that, especially like when I go to a hunt or host a hunt or something. I just want it to be organized. We're going by this time frame. This is what we're doing at this time, etc.
Right.
It's very organized. I like that. We coordinated the judges. Like the judges were there plenty of time early, so we kind of got a good game plan. All right, we're going to, on day one, we're going to try this. We're going to go to these spots. And then if that doesn't work, we'll, adjust,
Mm-hmm.
And I did like that. We had a good group of judges, and we were getting after them. They were running. It was, that little bit of nighttime we were running, we had help for sure. I would have loved to have, at least another 30 minutes or so, but, it ran well. My wife judged with me, and she's a hustler. She doesn't really play around. I would probably put her up against most men I know that she would probably outjudge them, effort wise and running down in there and getting after them. She doesn't play any games with it.
All right, you're going to have to, now that you brought it up, you're going to have to tell that story about how she popped up out of nowhere on you.
Yeah, it was the second day, man. It was about, I guess, actually, I think it was about, 8:30 in the morning or so, and they had jumped the fox and the emu, which is where I like to go. And for people who don't know what that is, it is thick, and it's just a thick cutover. I'm not sure how big it is. I'm guessing it's probably about 80 acres or something.
That sounds about right.
It's just thick and nasty, and you can walk in there and sit there. Dogs could be running, or dogs might not be running, but it's nothing to see foxes hanging out.
Yep.
Just walk around,
run right up under your feet, and you probably won't even see them.
They're just in there. And before the Masters, I had maybe a little walking path in the corner up there. And because I know that they'll get up in there and they'll just loop and loop and loop. And when you got dogs in the road pulling to them, especially since the races in there are normally really large races, it pulls dogs from all over. It's just such a loud race,
Right.
So I made this little walking path, and it's not wide. Like you can't even, a dog, they don't even use it, because I basically left briars probably about 30 inches high on purpose,
Mm-hmm.
But I wear chaps, so I go in there, but it's just to get me up in the corner. But they were running all over me. But long story short, we had a race about 8 o'clock, and he was running all in the evening. He was not coming out. And, it just sounded like you were outside cat hunting. It was just, you couldn't even think. The dogs were so loud. They were all around me in there.
Now.
And I got them 5 times in 12 minutes, which is on foxes.
That's
during the broad
insane.
daylight. I'm talking 40 dogs, 40 running him and 40 pulling to him. And, the fox is crossing at my feet, And, I'm in the pack, really. I hate to say it, I'm in there with them,
Right.
They were rolling him in. Anyway, they ran him in a hole, which was fine. He was good to go. But anyway, I walked over there. We don't like them mess around the holes very long. So I said, I'll just come on through the cutover. Well, my wife had never been to this path that I made. She doesn't know where it is. Couldn't tell you anything about it,
Mm-hmm.
So I'm down there. I'm shooing the dogs off, whatever. All of a sudden, I hear somebody talking. I'm like, who is this talking? And I look over there. I was like, how did you get here? Because for where she was, it's probably 300 yards through the thickest part I was just describing.
Right.
And she doesn't know where the path is, so she didn't take the path. And I said, how in the world did you get here? First person there.
Love it.
Because she's, she don't want, she want nothing to happen. So she was on her. I said, man, you're tough.
That's tough.
Another judge had got there, about 10 minutes later. He said, I don't know how she got there. I said, she walked through there. She just came through that thing, and whatever she don't have no chaps or nothing like that. And I was like, she is tough. I don't know
That's
how she did it.
awesome. I love it. I love it. That's tougher than me. I can tell you that. And I've tried to walk through that stuff, and it is not fun. So for her to be able to just get in there and dig and get after it, hats off to you. Please come judge every hunt that I have, because if you're gonna give that effort, man, that I love it, man. That's awesome.
Yeah, she's very serious. I mean, she really gets into it. Sometimes you hear women judging. This is not anything against anybody, but sometimes they're with their husband, or they're kind of near them, or But man, she is in there, dude. I'm telling you.
I love it. That's awesome.
She ain't playing that.
I want to take a second and talk to y'all about Chestnut Mountain Feed Company in Concord, Virginia. They are my go-to feed supply store. And if y'all are in the area or are even close to the area, y'all be sure to check these guys out. It is where I solely get my dog food from, my leashes and collars and stuff like that. And they also have some farm supplies as well if you're into that kind of thing. So y'all be sure to check these guys out. And like I said, in Concord, Virginia, and let them know that you were sent there by the Hounds Tales podcast, and they have my seal of approval, because they are the best feed store around, and they really, truly are a blessing to have. So, all right, guys, let's get back to the episode. So was that where y'all were at the entire weekend, was down in the Emu?
Yeah, for the most part. Some races had broke off on the other side and up in Bookerville, and we didn't really load Bookerville up as much, because just since they cut it, they just don't run out there as much, But
Right.
On the last day, I think it was about 9:30. It was a giant race up front, right there behind the bathhouse, and I said, let's ride over there to Bookerville real quick.
Mm-hmm.
So we pull up, and they're just screaming right there. This is broad daylight. It's 9:30, And we pull up, and I still got it running. She's like, yelling at me to turn it off, So I turn it off, and Fox is coming through the cutover, and it's kind of open cutover. You can see.
Yeah, you can still see really good. Yeah.
It's great big red. He's just loping on through there, coming right to us, right? And you can see the dogs like over top of him in the distance, single file coming. It was probably about 40 dogs, probably. Mm-hmm. And that joker ran right by us. And, of course, she pushed me out of the way and strolled across them, but they anyway. But it was like the perfect crossing, because it was like single file. You can see him coming. It's not like they were way behind him. You know what I mean?
Right.
They were driving him. This is 9:30. Absolutely, like you could have made a picture out of it. And it was just, it was a pretty good crossing, honestly.
That's awesome. She said, "You ain't getting it one out of me." I love it.
Yeah, she got more than me the last day.
No kidding.
I got her the first 2 days, but she got me the last day.
I love it. And it's so good to hear, Bookerville's running, and I was talking, God, who was I talking with this about? I can't remember who I was having this conversation with, but, we were kind of talking about the differences of pins and judging and stuff like that. And I was saying, when I first got started, a lot of the times, everybody at pools and a lot of the guys that judge there consistently, and we'll get into that here shortly, but a lot of these guys have their spots. Like, hell, Cody Hawkins has a spot, and they just call it Cody's spot. I'm sure Demo, I don't know, Demo needs to go ahead and just put a sign up down there that just says Cody's spot. That's all you need to put down there. And everybody knows where it's at, and everybody knows what it is. So.
Yeah, he would steal the best spot in the whole town.
Right.
But it's a prime spot, day or night. They're coming.
They're coming right there. That's right. So, but when I got started, I didn't know where to go. I had only been to the pen a handful of times, so I got put up front, which is fine. That's great. I caught some crossings in the beginning, and when I first got in, this is when the running was a little spotty at pools. There's no need to sugarcoat it. Pools had the spotty running for a couple of years, and when I got into it, it was real spotty. And I remember that Dismal, that was one of the funnest things, was judging up there by Bookerville and over in those cutovers, because they were fresh cutovers then. And so man, you could binocular and walk in those cutovers and get hunting scores and see any kind of chance of a crossing. That was one of my favorite things to do is I love watching for hunting scores. I don't get me wrong, I love going after these chases, but man, going in and getting into these cutovers and getting into some of these open woods where you can watch a dog work, man, that was one of the funnest things that I remember about Bookerville and why I like being up there. Not necessarily so much. I like getting around the pen and experiencing different places, but man, that was one of the coolest things about judging up there and judging around the gate is watching that. So it's good to see that Bookerville is starting to pick up on the running some, so you can get a little bit of both. Well, a little bit more of the running scores along with some hunting score stills. You know what I mean?
I do. I mean, shoot, I went to one day, probably about a month ago, coming out after the hunt. I said, we'll just cut through Bookerville. Drive through there, it's 2 foxes literally sunbathing in the road. I mean, it's foxes all out there, but the dogs have a hard time smelling out there. So, I mean, if they can go run in the back where the smell is great, well, why not,
Right. And that's the thing,
Bookerville,
Go ahead.
I mean, Bookerville used to be the popping spot back in the day. I mean, it was open pines, and I mean, they would run excellent, and the emu before they cut it was wide open pines, not overly large. I don't know how old they were, 15 years old, or something like that. But like the emu where it's located, and then Bookerville where it's located, it completes the circle. But when one of them cut, right, it means the game has to go a different way to get to the front of the back. So those are the alleyways for them to go. So now the emu's thick. That's why it's picking back up. I mean, it's nothing. I mean, I used to judge an emu when it was bare. You know what I mean?
That buggy axle is probably going to be a pretty hopping little spot.
Oh, for sure. At the night hunt, the best thing to do is sit right there on the wire. Just sit right there, and they're running right on the wire back and forth.
I love it. Yeah, we're kind of getting ahead of ourselves a little bit there. Let's kind of get back towards the Masters just a little bit. You kind of mentioned it a little bit, there for a little bit. I'm kind of rambling on there. You touched on it. Said the running. How was the running all 3 days? Did the running keep up? It wasn't a lot of dark running, so we all know that pen just absolutely boils at night. But it's been running good all year. Did it keep up? Did it hold up? How was it?
The first day, the first 2 hours were absolutely jamming for 2 hours. It was running great. All over the pen, not just in one spot or anything like that. It broke down. I would say, I think they cast it at 5:30, so it broke down maybe about 7:45, 8, and but then a dog would go jump a fox and they get back going,
Right.
So I mean, I would say on the first day they ran a good 4 hours, 4.5 hours. I mean, they were running the whole time, and then you might have had 30 minutes spread out over the hunt where they weren't running.
That's not bad. That's not bad at all. Not for
second day,
daylight fox running.
No. The second day, we had some dew on the ground, and it ran the entire time.
Love it.
I mean, yeah, it was absolutely jamming. Third day was a little bit slower. Dogs were having, some feet problems, I think. It was hard, they were having a hard time kind of pulling to each other. But they were in there running. I say the third day, they probably ran 3.5, but, 3.5 good hours, and it's probably an hour and a half total of if you added it up with downtime.
That's still not bad, especially like you said. That pen. I don't think that pen. A lot of people realize, but that pen can be very tough on feet. Very tough on feet. That's one of the jokes when you're in there judging. You watch a dog that runs down the middle of the roads and it pulls. You say, well, that dog doesn't normally run here. If the dog runs the edge and doesn't get on those rocks and all those hard pieces, man, that dog's been in that pen before and he's avoiding that stuff because it hurts his feet. But the dogs that run down the middle of the road, they ain't ever been there before.
Yeah, I mean, D-Man puts a lot of work into it, and I mean, it's just, you can drive a car around the whole entire place.
Oh, I took my Subaru the last time I was there.
Yeah, on the flip side of that, it does wear on their feet. But honestly, I'd rather be able to get to where I'm trying to go than not be able to get there.
That's it. Dogs ain't supposed to be in the road anyway, right?
That's right. I mean, you can use it a little bit to get where you're going, but you don't need to stay there all day.
That's it. So, I know you have this insane memory. So I got to ask, I don't know if you remember any names, and you don't have to call no names, but maybe even just the number. What was your favorite dog from the weekend? What was one that sat out and impressed you the most?
the first day, I kind of got three answers to that. Because, I really don't see the same dogs every day. It's such a large pen, it's nothing to see a group of dogs all day and then not see them again, But the first day, the high dog was also the dog I liked the best, which was 73. And was leading or second in giant races. I mean, I'm not talking 4 or 5 dogs. I'm talking 30 or 40 dogs, The second day, I liked the dog number 61, who I had scored. I think I scored it all 4 times, which, you only get, I got 17 crossings, but that's a fair amount,
That's right. That's right.
The dog was pretty good, but then I never saw the dog again. It's just gone, And then the third day, I would say the third day would be the one I liked overall the best. It was number 95, because I scored 95 every single day, leading one race every day. Almost the same time of day. It's actually crazy, but number 95, man, he or she or whatever, but he was a classy, good running, could get in the front, nice dog.
Love it. I'm pretty sure.
I think the dog placed in the top 10 or something, or top 20 or something.
I think so. If my memory suits, I think that was Chad Perkinson's dog, wasn't it?
I don't know. I'd have to go look. I'm just good with numbers.
Yeah, that's right. I think that was right. I think that was Chad's dog, if I remember right. And I remember you talking about it, after the hunt was over. We called and talked to each other about it, and you remember you saying that dog was sharp.
Man, he was very sharp.
I love it, man. I do regret not going. I hated not being there, but work calls. But anyway, so.
I got something else from the Masters I actually really liked. I was going to mention it. I like how they print the top 10 dogs of the day scorecards.
Mm-hmm.
I just think that's cool. It kind of shows you like where they were running, or it's just kind of neat. You kind of see, oh, my dog got 3 second places, or just whatever. You know what I mean? I like that.
I do too.
I'm a big fan of that.
I do too. If it didn't take so daggone long, I'd love to see every dog get those papers. But good Lord, how much paper and ink you'd have to go through to make that happen.
You would run through a lot of ink.
That's right. That's right. So, that's a good little segue, and that kind of gets on something I want to touch on with this next subject. And I know a lot of people listening, we probably talk about pools a whole lot, and I do love going down there, and that place will break your heart and make you the happiest person in the world. But judging at pools and running at pools, this is some, like you said in the beginning, this is in your backyard. You're less than 30 minutes away from the pen. You're down there almost every week. It's something that you do. It's practically your side work. Literally, you judge at pools all the time.
I do.
So the pen very, very well. It's pretty much like the back of your hand. Let's kind of talk a little bit time to start. What the difficulty of judging down there at pools. And learning the pen and kind of understanding how to make things happen as a judge at that pen.
I would say learning it would be the number one thing, because even up to about 2 or 3 years ago, I would get things wrong. I'm like, oh, I'm saying they're going here, and I remember I was judging one time, and Mike Hearn was like, "Yeah, that's the wrong direction." But I said, "All right, well, let's just hope that they're going that way." Because,
right.
But I was completely wrong with it. But kind of knowing, like, I'm a big radio judge, and sometimes I get a little bit excessive on it, but I get into it. I take it like deer hunt. You know what I mean? Same concept, and like when let's say there's only 2 or 3 races going on at a time. Now in the dark it might be 20. It's, whatever. It's 2 or 3 races at a time, and you're listening to it's 50 dogs or something.
Right.
It's kind of hard to pick out which one is in the front.
That's it. It's so hard.
It's like, so a lot of the experience, judges in there will be like, all right, it's a high mouth dog way out front or whatever, just to kind of help you get your bearings right. So you're like, all right, I need to, shift this way or whatever you need to do, Getting in the woods I'm in the woods most of the time. That doesn't take any, people sit on the road, that's fine, and I don't expect, older, much older folks to be running around through the woods, jumping over stumps and stuff,
Right.
But getting in the woods, even just off the road a little bit. I mean, there's no telling how many times that they come to the road and might be a dog or 10 dogs in the road, and you turn them back, and then you're not getting that crossing.
Right.
But if you're in there when they flank, they'll come right by you.
Yep, getting in and getting after it. Yep, I agree 100%.
I can't tell you how many crossings I get in the foxes. I could touch them with a broom. You know what I mean?
Right.
I mean, I'm right next to them. And a lot of times they'll have a big lead on them. You know what I mean? So it's like, if you go ahead and get in there and just get quiet, he'll literally run right to you.
Right by you. Yep. Find where them paths are, and find you a good center section of where all the paths connect. And more than likely, you're probably going to be able to see the game and get a heck of a crossing right there.
Yeah, I mean, I get a lot of single files, especially in the woods. They're not, again, because, you'll try to get a crossing, and it'd be a great crossing coming to a road, but this dog's pulling in there kind of from behind you and stuff. You can't really tell,
Mm-hmm.
And then they hit the road, and they're 10 wide, and basically you can't do anything. You don't know who's in the front.
Yep, but you're just blowing it up.
When you're in the woods, man, they literally come right by you. And a lot of judges I judge with, that's what they do, I'm not the only person in the woods. I don't want it that like that, but,
right.
It's definitely learning the pen, number one, communicating, number two. At nighttime, it's not so much because it's, so many races, you don't really need to do that.
Yeah.
But, getting in the woods, and then, you kind of need to be a little bit mobile. You kind of can't just sit there in your chair, and just hope that he runs right to you,
That's right.
So, I mean, there are some spots in there that they will, you know what I mean? They will just literally cross in the same spot. But, getting mobile is the main thing. And, I mean, I've switched up my things. I mean, I told you my dad used to take us hunting before of us, and, he would just take off walking.
Mm-hmm.
They called him Houdini. He would just start here, and then next time you talk to him, he's asking for a ride at Purdy store, So that's how we grew up. We would just walk and walk and walk. And so I think that's why I do it so much,
and I think that's a good point too. And maybe why I have such a love for the place is it's so big that you have to judge it, run it, get in front of the dogs like you would an outside, like you would a deer hunt. It reminds
100%.
me so much of like a deer hunt. You got to be able to. You can't just sit still. You're not gonna, like nothing against these coyote pens and nothing like that. I love going to a good coyote race, and but most of the time you can sit within a 50-yard range and get 40, 50 crossings. When at Billy Pools, you gotta hustle to get 20.
Yeah, and that's a good day. You know what I mean? If you get 20, you're doing your job.
You're doing everything you could ask. I remember one of the first times I went down there, man, it was like I got like 6 or 7 crossings, and I went back up and handed my scores in. I was mad. Like, I was like, man, this is pathetic. Like, I can't believe I only got 7 crossings. And I may have been Demo. He goes, no, you're good. Like, don't worry. Like, that's a good day. Like, that's a good day. Don't worry about that. 7 crossings is great. Like, we had people turn in none. So 7 crossings is awesome.
It is, and they, I just like judging there. It's kind of like this, if you went deer hunting every day and you killed a big buck every single day, you probably wouldn't even really enjoy doing it, right?
Right.
So, like, you go judge at a high-pace pen, which is fun. I mean, don't get me wrong. I get just as excited,
Mm-hmm.
But that crossing you get with the coyote and he comes back by 5 seconds, a minute later and a minute later and a minute later, the crossing that worked hard for, it just doesn't mean as much. You know what I mean?
Right.
But when you're in there after him and it's 45 dogs running a gray fox and he's circling on you and you have to get up on them because they might cross the path, in milliseconds, it's kind of like a little bit, you just kind of get more of a self, reward of it, I guess is the word for it.
Hunting season is here. Make sure your dog stays energized with Joy High Energy 24/20. This beef formula is made to meet the nutritional needs of the hardest working dogs at a whopping 505 kcals per cup. Joy High Energy is formulated with omega-3 and 6 fatty acids for healthy skin and a great coat. Added pumpkin for digestive health and chelated minerals for more energy. So whether they're in the woods, the water, or the field, make sure they have the fuel for anything that comes their way. To learn more about Joy High Energy 24/20 or to find a dealer near you, visit joydogfood.com or call us at 800-245-4125.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, that will do it for this episode. We are going to finish up the rest of it next week. So y'all be sure to tune in for part 2, and we will finish this conversation out. So again, thank y'all for listening. Be sure to hit that like and subscribe button. And like always, guys, happy hunting.